Do you ever wonder why your lower back starts to hurt when you've been walking around or standing for long periods of time? In this video, I'm going to share why that happens and a couple of simple exercises, a stretch and an exercise that you can do to help it. Now, this is a remake of a video that I did a few years ago before I had an editor, and it wasn't so easy for me to get some images into my pictures and taking on board some of the comments that I got about explaining a couple things in more detail. So welcome back. My name is Catherine. I'm the founder and principal therapist of LSM Clinic, a sport and remedial massage therapy clinic in East London. In this channel, I share information about how the body works and simple self-care exercises and tips so that you can live your life and enjoy your favorite activities as close to pain-free as possible. So let's talk first about the structure. Now, just a side note, I do have timestamps below. So if you want to jump just to the exercises, especially if you're coming back to watch again, you can use the timestamps in the description. But I really recommend understanding the mechanics behind it because that can help you understand why these exercises are going to be helpful for you. Now, before we get into the explanation, I just want to clarify this video is about muscular causes of why your lower back will get sore when you're walking and standing. There are a lot of structural issues that can cause lower back pain. There's spine degeneration, there's slip discs, there's ankylosing spondylitis. I'm not going to try and name all of them, but the point is there's loads of structural things that can be causing back pain. And I'm specifically talking about the muscular causes. Now, if you do have like a slip disc or a prolapse disc, but it's not too serious, or you do have certain other things, this video might still help because you can reduce some of the strain on your back muscles with the things that I'm sharing. But this is definitely not me saying that this is every single cause as to why your lower back hurts when you're standing or walking, but it is the most common. Like 90% of the clients we see who have this helps them with. So in our body, our torso has very little skeletal support. We have the rib cage in our chest and we have the pelvic bones in our pelvis. And in our torso, in our lower torso, from our rib cage to our pelvis, the only bones that we have are the 5 lumbar vertebrae, which means that the musculature around that area needs to do a lot of work and it needs to be working together. It also means that the lower back is very susceptible to being pulled on by other things. But this pattern specifically, when people would come to us and say, hey, my back is really sore after I walk around, like I went on holiday and we walked around and we looked at museums, and I don't know why my back is so sore just from standing up or just from walking around a little bit. It's not that strenuous. And this pattern was very consistent with people who complained about that. Now, our body has a place that it wants to be in space, in that our head wants to be in a certain place, our spine wants to be in a certain place, and generally speaking, our muscles are trying to work to keep us in that position. So the first thing that starts to irritate our lower back when we're standing and walking around a lot is usually a tight psoas muscle. Now, as you can see from this picture, the psoas attaches to the front of the lumbar vertebra, so it attaches to the front of the spine, and then goes down into the inside of the thigh bones. Now, because most of us sit for long periods of time, that usually means that that muscle gets shortened. Also using it a lot. So like if you walk a lot, run, cycle, that also uses the muscle and the muscle will get shorter. Whenever you're either holding a muscle in a shortened position for a long period of time or using it over and over again, that will tend to cause it to be short. And most people spend more time sitting than standing. So the psoas is used to being in a shortened position when we're sitting like this. And so then when we're standing up, so we're sitting like this, when we're standing up, that actually ends up kind of being pulled on, right? It's pulling on the ends because it's used to being shorter. Now, if you look at your thigh bone and you look at your 5 vertebrae in your back, which one do you think is stronger? Like if you have 2 ends pulling on something and you have your big heavy thigh bones and then these little vertebrae, which one is getting pulled? And also you have gravity as well, right? So if you guessed that the spine is going to be pulled forward if the psoas is tugging on it, you guessed correctly. So the way that we fix that, and I will explain in detail how to do this when I get into the exercises, is by releasing the psoas. Now, a therapist can do that in the session. At our clinic, we have a painless psoas release. Sometimes the psoas release can feel very painful, but there are painless ways to do it. So I recommend that if you're getting it released, go to someone who knows how to do a painless release. And then there are various hip flexor stretches that you can do. And I will show you in the stretch and exercise section. I will walk you through, I will talk you through how to do the psoas stretch. Now, one of the reasons that I believe that this is accurate is because when we have someone coming in and they're standing up and their back is hurting and we only release the psoas and they stand back up and their back feels better. And all we've done is take away the pull from the hip flexor. Now, the second thing that will usually cause your lower back to hurt when you're standing and walking around a lot is that your lower abdominals aren't doing their job. Now, this is what the abdominals look like, and I say lower abdominals are like belly button down. Now, some people will say that there's no such thing as lower and upper abdominals because they're all like one, there's the transverse abdominals and obliques and the rectus abdominis. However, we consistently see in clinic clients who can contract their upper abdominals, so from the belly button up, but they can't contract from the belly button down. So there clearly is some type of separation in the body if the lower ones will switch off while the upper ones are still working. So like I said at the beginning, when we've got the spine, we've got like the 5 vertebrae in the lumbar spine, and that's all the support, the muscles have to do a lot of work. And a very big part of supporting that spine is the abdominal muscles. But so many people, for various reasons, and I should probably do another video about the various reasons why the abdominals seem to switch off, they don't switch on. So they're not doing their job. So then that means that the muscles on either side of the spine, which is usually the QL, and lumbar erector spinae, but often it's the QL, are pulling and trying to support without the support in the front. Now, if you've ever been in a situation where you had a partner who didn't pull their weight or a group project where somebody didn't do it, you know what it feels like to have to compensate for someone not doing their job. And that's exactly what the back muscles have to do when your lower abdominals and pelvic floor and the upper abdominals, but very, very mainly lower abdominals, don't do what they're supposed to do. So the way that you can fix that is by activating your lower abdominals. And again, I'm going to explain that in the exercise section. So just to recap, the reason is usually your psoas, if it's tight, is pulling your spine forward. Your back muscles are trying to fight against that pull, so you're not being pulled forward. So they get tight and they get fatigued and they get sore. Your lower abdominals are not activating the way that they should, or activating at all, so your lower back muscles are having to work to stabilize your torso when you're standing up and walking around much more intensely than when you're sitting down. When you're sitting, it's not as much of a strain. Lower backs can hurt when you're sitting, but that's going to be a different video because that's usually a different set of mechanics. So let's get into the 2 exercises that I want you to be doing to help your lower back when you're standing. Now, the first one is a psoas stretch or hip flexor stretch. This is a standing hip flexor stretch. There are a lot of different ways that you can stretch your hip flexors, and a lot of them are actually just going to pull on your back more, especially the deep lunge ones if your psoas is tight. The one that I'm sharing with you is really good because it's portable. You can do it anywhere. So if you are on a holiday and you're walking around a museum and your back hurts, you can do this stretch in a crowd without drawing too much attention to yourself, and it should help reduce the strain that your psoas is putting on your back. So basically what you want to do is you want to start with your feet hip width apart, and you want to put one foot slightly behind the other while they're still hip width apart. Now you are stretching the hip flexor on the back leg. So let's say you put your left leg back. So you can see in this picture what position I'm talking about. One leg forward, one leg back. So you're kind of over the middle of your feet at this point. And then what I want you to do is I want you to tilt your pubic bone up. So it's almost like you're trying to bring your pubic bone up and your tailbone down. So you can kind of see these arrows, right? In that position, you might feel a very slight pull on the front of the back leg. So if your left leg is behind, you're stretching your left hip flexor, you might feel a slight pull there. That's enough. You also want to activate your abdominals a little bit, just kind of suck your stomach in. Activate your abs, just kind of pulling your belly button in a little bit, because that helps you stay upright. So what will often happen, you put your foot back behind you, then that pulls your back forward because you're pulling on that psoas. By activating your abs and having your spine stay upright, you're actually getting a stretch. Now, you don't need to feel a strong stretch. A gentle stretch is perfect. If you don't feel anything, or you want to just increase it just a tiny bit, don't go more than a 2 or 3 out of 10 on the stretch scale though. you can move your whole pelvis forward. Now, this is a little tricky because if you move your whole pelvis forward, what most people want to do is they want to drop that, because I said pull the pelvis up, pull the pubic bone up, and tilt the the tailbone down. People move forward and then they stop that. So if you move forward just like a centimeter, half an inch, and hold it there, breathe into it. Imagine you feel your leg lengthening. And you really only have to hold it for maybe 10 seconds, like 3 or 4 breaths. It's very gentle. And then when you come out of it, you should feel a little bit less pull on your back. And then you can repeat it on the other side. So your feet would be hip width apart. You bring your right leg back, like literally about the length of your feet. So not like this, not like massively different, just like that much. Tilt your pubic bone up, tilt your tailbone down. So you're doing this with your pelvis. Feel a bit of a stretch, activate your lower abdominals, feel a little bit of a stretch, and it's okay if you don't feel a huge stretch or any stretch, but just you'll know that you're stretching. If you want, you can move your pelvis forward a little bit, breathe 3 to 4 nice deep breaths, maintaining that tilt each time you exhale, and that is a great portable hip flexor stretch that you can do when you're walking around and your lower back starts to hurt. Now, the second exercise is activating your lower abdominals. So there's 2 parts to the abdominal activation. One is just doing it while you're walking around, and the other is doing something to help your lower abdominals have a little bit more stamina when you're walking around. So when I say activate your lower abdominals, because that's all you have to do is activate your lower abdominals, what do I mean by that? Activation means contraction, but not, when I'm saying it, not a strong contraction, like 10%. Now, a common mistake that people make when they are activating their lower abdominals is they brace and they push out. So a way to check if you are activating your lower abdominals correctly, does your stomach go out when you try to contract it, or does it come in? And it's okay if it only comes in a tiny little bit. It's just that difference between doming your abs and having them come together, because basically that's what you're doing. A good way to think about it is if you've ever had to put on a pair of jeans that are a little bit too tight, how you suck your abs in, like to try and get your zip up. That's kind of what you're doing, but you only want to do it at 10% contraction. I don't want you to be walking around sucking in your lower abs and like not being able to breathe. And I mean, to be fair, you should be able to breathe with your upper abs while you're activating your lower abs. It might initially be difficult because, like I said, a lot of people can't activate their lower abdominals, but they can't activate their upper abdominals. So they're sucking in their upper abdominals and their lower abdominals at the same time. If you have a hard time getting the lower abdominal muscles to contract, and I'm specifically talking from the belly button down in between the pelvis. So that kind of section there is the lower abdominals that I'm referencing. You can tap on your lower abdominals just like this. And that will make it easier for them to activate. So when you're walking around and your lower back starts to hurt, you do the hip flexor stretch, and then you activate your lower abdominals to support your back. So you're taking away the pull on the spine, and then you're giving your lower back some help with your lower abdominals. Now, if you're not used to activating your lower abdominals, then they might tire really quickly, and you might not be able to walk around with that low 10% activation all day. So you can do something like a pelvic tilt, or just when you wake up in the morning and you lay on your bed, put your feet flat on the floor, bend your knees, and just pull your ab into your back a few times and hold it so that you start to build up that connection. I do have a video about lower abdominal activation that is a little bit older, but I will link it below for your reference. So we've covered the mechanics of why your lower back is hurting when you're standing and walking for a long time, and a stretch and an exercise that should help you take the pressure off. Really important, if any of these exercises, stretches, if it ever causes you pain, stop and see someone who can assess you to understand why. Everything that I'm talking about should be done pain-free. And of course, if you have like a medical condition or something else going on, you're under the care of a doctor, check with a doctor who can see you personally, individually, physically, to make sure that it's safe for you before trying any new stretches or exercises, even really gentle ones like these. So I'd love to know if you try the stretch or the activation in the comments, how it goes for you. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm always happy to make follow-up videos for anything that you'd like me to expand more on. And I hope this helps. Hope you have a great day. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it with somebody who might find it helpful, and subscribe if you'd like more information about how to take care of your muscles. Okay, bye.